Welcome everyone to the recap of round 3 tie breaks of the Women's World Cup 2025 that's currently happening in Batumi, Georgia. In round 3, we already saw that Humpy and Divya had already made it after the first 2 games into round number 4. But there were 3 Indians who were still fighting hard and they were in the tie breaks. We had Harika, we had Vantika and we had Vaishali. All 3 of them fighting against their opponent to make it to the next round. What happened here? Let's first take the story of Vantika, because she has been really one of the most tenacious players in this tournament. She was up against Kateryna Lagno and they exchanged blows in the classical time control. And then we went into the rapid 20 plus 10 on the tie breaks. And Vantika actually drew the first game. But what was very interesting already for me was the opening choice by Kateryna. She played this b4 move against the French, kind of the wing gambit. And I think Kateryna was pretty clear that she wanted to put Vantika under a lot of pressure in terms of opening ideas. She didn't want to play something that was well known, take the position into wild territory, because positionally Vantika is very, very strong. And the first game ended in a draw. The second one, I believe Vantika had a very good position. She was trying her best, but she couldn't really convert it into a win. She had her chances. And then we moved to 10 plus 10 segment, where once again, Vantika with white played a very, very solid game. It was drawn. Nothing much happened. And then in the second 10 plus 10 game, this is where French defense happened. Kateryna again played b4 and I think Vantika outplayed her. She had a great position, and when Kateryna played rook g1 now with the idea to just go wild with g4, I think this is where Vantika lost her patience. She should have come rook c4 attacking d4 and she would have had a great position, but she I think got a bit scared and she played g5, and I think after this the tables turned around. Kateryna got her attack hg6, the h-pawn became weak, the rook moved in, and all in all she managed to win. So a very kind of a heartbreaking loss there for Vantika. She played really well in this tournament but now has had to exit before the round 4. So Kateryna moves to the next round. We now move on to Harika, because Harika, very experienced, maybe one of those players who has played innumerable World Cups. She was playing against Stavrola, and their games were crazy, filled with ups and downs. A lot of things happened there. In the first game itself, Stavrola got a very good position. She was attacking Harika, and I think she had a big attack with knight f5, piece sack, gf5, queen f5. But somehow Harika hung on, and at some point she got a great attack with queen a1, rook e1, trying to checkmate. Stavrola played bishop f1, and here is where Harika could have played queen e5, a very strong move, and she would have had a winning position there. But instead she took rook takes f1, and after queen e8, king g7, rook takes g6, it was already a draw with perpetual. So the first game ended in this way. In the second game, Harika was slightly better maybe, but that game also ended in a draw. And then in the next 10 plus 10 segment, here Harika in the first game out of the opening maybe got a fine position, and there was this moment where Stavrola played rook a2, and I think that turned it all, because if in that position she would have played pawn to b5, black would have had an excellent position. But she played rook a2, allowing b4 and allowing b5, and that changed everything, because the knight maneuvered from c2, b4, went to c6, and white had this complete control, and Harika just outplayed her opponent totally. So that gave her the first win there. And then in the next game, Stavrola was all over Harika like it was over. Like, knight was on f5, rook there. I mean, attacking. We thought that Harika would resign at any point, and then again they would go into 5+3 time control. But insane turnaround happened there. I think Stavrola just lost her cool and she played this move. One mistake after another. The final blunder was like knight d4, just giving up the e3 pawn, and just everything fell apart and she resigned there. So Harika goes through her experience, triumphed, and she will now take on Lagno in the next round. The last Indian playing was Vaishali, and Vaishali has had a very tough match with Carissa, because things went up and down in first two games in classical. In the rapid, she was lost in the first game, utterly lost actually. At some point her opponent took on c3, knight c3 in the end game, and then just, I don't know what was the blank spot, she played b5 and Vaishali just took the pawn. I think Carissa simply missed that the rook was defended on f3, on I think g3. So she just gave that b5 pawn for free, and Vaishali drew. In the next game as well, was very dangerous for Vaishali. She was down a piece, like the pawn went to a6, knight a6, rook a6. But somehow Vaishali is this player who never gives up. She brought her knight in, she created her chances with the rook and knight, and then managed to draw. And I think this was good enough, because in such events, when you hold losing positions, the psychology of the opponent breaks down. And so then in the 10+10 format, Vaishali played the first very nice game. She managed to play a nice attack, and then when the opponent played g5, she had this knight takes d6 and then taking the piece on f6, and she managed to beat Carissa. And this was good enough, because in the next game as well, she managed to attack with black, this idea with queen g5, knight f2 check, rook f2, queen c1 hung, and Carissa couldn't hold on there. So Vaishali also won and proceeded to round number 4, which means that from 9 players who started in the World Cup, we are now down to 4 Indian players in the final 16, which is great. India has 4 players, China has 5 players, and the pairings for round 4 are Humpy takes on Koschenyuk, will be a cracker of an encounter. Then we have Harika taking on Kateryna Lagno, another amazing fight. Divya takes on Zhu Jinner, which is battle between two powerhouses, India and China. And Vaishali takes on Kamaladinova from Kazakhstan, who's in great form, who beat Goryachkina in this tournament. So let's see how many of them out of these 4 Indian players are able to make it to the final 8. But for now, I hope you enjoyed the recap. This is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye bye.